Hey bookworms, welcome back to the channel and welcome if you're new. I'm Sam and in today's video I'll be recommending fantasy books. So I feel like fantasy books I don't talk about enough on my channel. Like I haven't ever done a video just on fantasy books, which is why I chose to do this one. But I didn't want to like recommend the usual, ACOTAR series and Shadow and Bone and all those because they get recommended a lot. Like we know those are good. People want you to read them. They're recommended pretty much by everybody, which is why I ended up going reading them myself. I wanted to pick fantasy books that I loved and that I think you guys will enjoy and that I feel like should be talked about a lot more. We've got some 2023 releases here, we've got some older reads, but yeah, let's just jump straight into it with the first one, which I feel like is no surprise. I talk about this book so often. First up, we have Only a Monster, which is probably no surprise to any of you. This book I talk about so much, but I had to recommend it because if you still haven't read it, what are you doing? This book is wonderfully written and just captivating. The world is rich, the magic system is so unique, and it's just honestly such a great read. We have plenty of action, star-crossed romance, and let's not forget the main thing about this book that I loved, and that's the time travel aspect of it. In this book, we find a character who discovers that her family can time travel after she actually does so. Now, in order to do this, they have to steal time from other people, which kind of makes them the monsters of this story. I loved how Vanessa was able to humanize these characters without compensating the fact that these characters are monsters for what they do, but at the same time she makes you fall in love with the characters in the story. This is just one of those reads that I absolutely love and I can't stop recommending this book. So if you haven't picked this up, you need to pick it up. And the sequel comes out soon, so you want to get this one read as soon as possible. Next up is another book that again you guys probably have heard me talk about way too many times, and that is the Serpent and Dove series. This entire series was a 5-star. I gave the second book 4 stars, gave this one and the last one 5. In this book we're on a character called Lou, who's a witch, and Reed, who is a witch hunter. This is an enemies to lovers fantasy romance book where we follow Lou and Reed. Lou is a witch and Reed is a witch hunter, and they are forced into marriage. This entire book was completely spellbinding. It had me literally hooked and I couldn't get enough of the character and the world. It's just one of those books that will absolutely hook you from the beginning. This is a fast-paced fantasy that will just keep you reading. There's plenty of action, there's a lot of drama, romance, amazing side characters. The main characters are absolutely incredible. They are some of my favourite characters ever. And all in all, this is just a great read. I just don't feel like you'll be disappointed with this series. I have seen negative reviews and it almost put me off, and I would have kicked myself if I had let that, because oh my god, seriously, this is so good. So in the story, Lou is now married to Reed, who is a witch hunter. He has no idea she's a witch, and she's pretty much living with him in the place where all the other witch hunters are. I forget what they're called, but yeah, she's trying to keep the secret, she's trying to survive, and it's just so good. And yeah, like I said, you gotta pick this book up. I'm gonna continue talking about this book until you guys do. Next up is This Fisher's Grace. This one definitely took me by surprise. I wasn't expecting to enjoy it as much as I did. This is the perfect blend of fantasy and romance. This book is high stake that brings with deadly magic and has great chemistry when it comes to the romance. 3 weddings, 3 funerals. Alyssa's gift from the gods is supposed to magnify her power, but everyone she touches has died. Honestly, one of those books that I wasn't expecting to be as wonderful and enjoyable as it was. I loved it. I loved the romance between our main character and the bodyguard. I loved the whole magic system, and I loved how high stake this really was. This is a book that really did take me by surprise, so I highly recommend this one. I recommend all these books, right? Because this is a recommendation video. Next up, we have a book that came out in January of this year because it's my first ever fairy book, and that is Spice Road. This book is just as beautiful on the inside as it is on the outside. This is an epic sand-swept adventure filled with twists, action, fights, and even a bit of romance. This is an enchanting world filled with tea magic and desert monsters that will have you glued to the page until the very end. I didn't really know what to expect when I first read this one, and I was surprised by just how much action and how quickly this book got into it. This is fast paced and you won't be bored. There's so much that's happened in this book that I was pleasantly surprised at my enjoyment for it. So yeah, and I think this is a series, so I'm really excited for that. Next up, keeping it with the whole Fairy Loot books, is City of Nightmares. This was such a different and fun fantasy read. We follow a character called Ness, who is a cowardly girl living in a world where there's gangsters and where you could turn it into your nightmare. Her own sister turned into a big giant spider and killed her dad, and she's pretty much traumatized from that. And yeah, in this book you kind of have to like drink a certain water or take this medication in order for you to not turn into a nightmare when you do fall asleep. And yeah, I loved how different this was, and I loved the concept of it and what it was trying to do, and how terrifying it would be to think that if you fell asleep and you actually turned into a nightmare. And I was trying to think what would be the worst thing that I could turn into, and for me turn into a snake really awful because I have a phobia of snakes. I'm sure there's like a lot more, but yeah, this was a lot of fun. It's very, very different. It's class, I think it's Strange the Demon meets like Buffy the Vampire or Gotham. No, that's it. Strange the Dreamer meets Gotham. Yeah, I can definitely see where the author was inspired by that. This one was just really good. A lot of fun. Then we have the series Bone Criers Moon and the Bone Criers Dawn. This was such a riveting read, and it's set in a French inspired world. It's about the lengths that people will go to for love and loyalty. We're following our character who has been trained from the beginning to become the matriarch, but before she can, she has to sacrifice her true love before she can become that. Then we follow Bastion, whose father was killed by one of the Bone Criers and he wants revenge, and that's where these two characters' paths meet. This is enemies to lovers, YA, multiple points of views, and it's just brilliantly written. There's plenty going on, the characters are really, really enjoyable, and honestly it was just a pleasant read. So yeah, definitely recommend picking up this series if you haven't already. The covers and the story is just as beautiful. Next up we have Jade Fire Gold. This is YA fantasy book I got because of this cover. So guilty. The magic in this book is just honestly so detailed. I absolutely love to help enemies to lovers in this book. I just felt like this was how it's supposed to be done. I really become invested in the two characters and their romance and the journey, and yeah, this is just one of those books that takes you on a journey. It's a lot of fun and you can't help but absolutely fall in love with the characters. Then we have In the Life of Puppets by TJ Klune, his newest book, and honestly, once again, this is such a magical, whimsical fantasy book about found family, friendship, love, and the lengths you'll go to protect the ones you love. This is a Pinocchio retelling. In this book, we're following this character who lives in these trees here in the middle of this woods. Nobody else is around, it's just him and his father, and then there are these two robots, Rambo, which is a Hoover, who was one of my favourite characters, and then we have Nurse Ratchet, who honestly is a little bit insane, but we love her. One day our main character finds a broken android in the junkyard, and he decides to take this robot home, aka called Hop, where he fixes him up. However, this ends up kind of causing a few problems because they get found, and the dad is hiding his son and these robots so they don't get found, and he is taken away. Now the son has to make this choice whether to go after his father or not, and he chooses to go after him even though he spent his whole life here and he has no idea what awaits him. Him and the robots go on this journey in order to find the dad before he ends up getting destroyed or his memories being taken away. This book really is a message about love and what it's like to be human and the burden of carrying a heart. And I don't know, TJ Klune just always writes these cozy fantasy reads that has so much heart to them, and once again he's done it again with this book because I absolutely love these characters so much. Next up we have Kingdom of the Wicked series. There are 3 books in this series. This is a gothic fantasy series that I absolutely devoured. I cannot say that word. I read all 3 books when they came out and I loved it. This is set in a world where we're following this character called Amelia and her sister, who are twins. One day her sister is brutally murdered and she decides that she's going to try and find out what happened, no matter the cost. And she comes across Raph, who is one of the princes of darkness from Hal. Her family and her whole life has warned her against trusting these people, and she kind of ignores that because he offers to help solve the murder of her sister, tells her that he's on her side. So she does. She decides that she's going to team up with him and solve his murder. However, this book is very steamy. There's a lot of action. We've got some enemies to lovers again, and oh my god, I'm not gonna lie, I kind of had a thing for Wrath when I was reading this. And the books just get better and better as they go on. This one was great. The second one was great. The third one was amazing. There are so many secrets and twists that happen in this that it's just so surprising. And it has you on the edge of your seat like reading it. It's so good, and they need to turn this into a series because it would be so good as a TV series. I don't know who I'd cast, let me know below who you would cast, because this would be so good. Well, I'm going to read the back. Whatever you do, you must never speak to the wicked. If you see them, hide. Once you've caught the demon prince's attention, he'll stop at nothing to claim you. They are midnight creatures, born of darkness and moonlight, and they seek only to destroy. This is honestly one of my favourite gothic stories ever, and I'm so sad the series is over, but I feel like I'm ready for whatever new book series this author brings out, all standalone. Can't wait. Finally, the last book that I'm going to recommend is a title that I'm going to butcher, and that is Hotel Magnifique. Magnifique? I'm butchering that so wrong. So what made me pick up the book was simply this: a magical hotel that appears in a new place every single morning. The hotel is filled with magic, and literally new rooms appear based on what the guests staying there want. However, it's really difficult to get into this hotel. You have to either be invited to be working there, or you have to have a lot of money. And this book sounds very light and sort of fun, but it definitely gets quite dark as well. And this was just, I don't know, this is like the dream, to have a hotel that could literally be transport at the same time, just maybe without the dark magic. It would be so perfect. This book literally swept me off my feet and just pulled me into the pages of the book and completely transported me to a completely different world. I honestly love this book so much, and I think that you guys will too. It's really good, and I just wish that there was more to it. I can't wait for, again, more books from this author. This is one of the first books I read by this author. And yeah, it was just such a magical journey. So that's all the fantasy books I'm going to be recommended. If you want me to do a part 2, I will. I was thinking about doing all the fantasy books on my TBR. You guys have to let me know in the comments below if you want to see that though, because that's going to be like a lot of effort. But yeah, if you guys did enjoy this video, please hit that like button. It would mean so much to me. Don't forget to subscribe. And until next time, bye!